Matthias from SSV Network, so one of the core team for the DVT project. So SSV is the very first implementations of DVT as a network. All right. Today I'll be talking to you about launching a DVT network, or you can call it a protocol, on mainnet. Although we are already on mainnet. All right. So let's go. So for us, our grand vision is that Ethereum security should be in the hands of as many people, as many entity, as many node operator, as many people as possible. So it can actually help with, but vulnerable to none. And it can actually help with the decentralizations of the base layer of Ethereum. All right. So as a lot of people know right now, is that there's a huge centralizations systematic risk to Ethereum staking right now, where a lot of stakes itself is with the bigger players, as you can see over here. I think the main thing about here is that it's not about the concentration of the stake, but it's more onto the bigger the staking pool becomes, or the services became, the bigger the systematic risk it is, because it's much more prone to regulation, censorship resistance, and all this. Okay. So what we can do, and I want to talk about a little bit about DVT. DVT is actually a new tech primitive to the Ethereum tech stacks. Okay, so we have been working on it for a while, since the beginning, co-researching it with Ethereum Foundation, and it's actually on the roadmap of Vitalik. All right, we've been working on this since 2.5 years or 3 years ago, from a POC to Ethereum Foundations as a simple DVT, to right now a V2 version, an upgraded version, which is a DVT solution into a full network state. All right. So, So how does it work, right? So a DVT, what DVT does is that it allows, right now, let's talk about now. So currently, right now, one validator key can be only run by one machines, and the machines itself have a couple of third-party components, your clients, consensus layer clients, and be it whether you use a cloud center or bare metal. All right. So what DVT does is that, and how it works is that it allows you to actually run a validator key with a number of different configurations, operator or machines collaboratively. Okay, and there's actually a QBFT consensus with inbuilt threshold signature that actually give you the necessary fault tolerance to make sure that even one of the machine go offline, your overall performance of your validator will not get affected. Right? So I think I kind of covered this. So what it really does, to go a little bit into more details, is that because of DVT, it actually helped to decentralize the base layer of Ethereum by allowing, instead of one machine running on for example, GAF or whatsoever. So what it do now is that it allows you to actually, even be whether internal use or be whether you want to use it in a permissionless setup, you'll be able to kind of run it in different clients that give you client diversity. Then data centers, even when we talk about clouds and all this stuff. So at the end of the day itself, what it really do is give you a layer of resiliency, all right? Because like what I mentioned earlier, so even one machine that's failure, it went offline, the other 3 machines are still there, going through the duty, proposing and testing, and coming to consensus, and send it up to the beacon chain. Okay, yeah. So this shift of validator in operations itself is going to dramatically increase the liveliness and security of a validator, and at the very same time reduce downtime, slashing risk, and also kind of giving you censorship resistant as well. Yeah. So we talk about DVT. So let's dive a little bit into who is SSV. So I mentioned we started working on the technology, this piece of technology, since the very beginning, during co-researching the technology with Ethereum Foundation. We are one of the DVT pioneer. So we can boast that there's actually 60 over dedicated contributors, very diversified across all the continents, 10 over countries. Then we also work with very reputable node operators validation as service, like like Stakely, like ChainUp, and all these guys. Okay, so for us, we are actually very experienced in terms of running Ethereum staking, because we have been running Ethereum staking service as block staking for the past 3 over years. So we understand the edge cases. All right. Then since the beginning itself to now, we have the longest beta tested testnet publicly. So we've been running like 2.5 year testnet, making sure that everything works well and all this before we actually launch it to the mainnet. And I think this is a very important thing. We created and built this project 100% open source, and it's 100% DAO run, so that we are the only one with a node specs. So anyone can actually use the node spec that undergo specs testing, which already undergo auditing. They can actually just take the node spec. It's an open source good, public goods, take it and use it in whatever thing they want to use it. Okay. So like I mentioned, we are already on mainnet, which I will touch on it later on. All right. So to us, we actually created and upgraded a DVT to a DVT network to make sure that everything is easy, accessible, and zero manual coordinations. So what is a DVT network, right? It's actually backed by a set of smart contracts and also a network that's actually multi-cluster, multi-operator network, that all the operator in there is actually DVT ready. All right. Zero manual coordination also means that it allows permissionless. All right. Like for example, a quick example will be like today. The protocols empower the staking applications or even solo staker to actually pick and choose any operator they want to work with dynamically. All right. So how it happens is that the smart contract will actually shoot an event to the network, and the cluster and your selected operator will be created dynamically without any needs to actually coordinate with any operator or speak to any operator to actually create the cluster. Okay, that zero manual coordination also means that even if we talk about like in a DKG perspective, which we are about to launch, there's no need for any one to actually hold on to become the main leader, to hold on to the main config file. So everything is done permissionlessly. No one need to talk to each other. Just pick and choose whoever, and it will be ready. Okay, and we support even existing validator. So existing validator itself can easily port the validators into whichever operators they want to work with in a cluster, and just start running a DV validator itself for fault tolerance and resiliency. All right, and I think we are very, very developer focused. So we actually built the whole infrastructure layer as a reusable infrastructure. What do I mean by reusable infrastructure? Reusable infrastructure means that one, anyone can actually take it and use it, reuse the operator, every individual operator all over again, whatever toolings that's in the infrastructure all over again, any developer can do it. And also at the very same time, if a developer, for example, like Metapool, they create an open source component to the existing applications, it will actually create the network effect. Because whatever they create on the infrastructure layer, everyone can use it. All right? And it actually saves a lot of time in terms of in terms of development for any other applications that's going to build and integrate with SSV. Okay, right. So this is just a quick standard flow existing validator, which is a single point of failure. Then we kind of transit in the initial phase of the code research, which is a DVT cluster, where everything is isolated, it's not mesh-like, nothing is interconnected with each other. A lot of limitations like coordinations, like unable to actually change the operator in a cluster without exiting the whole validator from the beacon chain, which is a huge limitation. And after that, this is where we are, which is a DVT network where every individual operator cluster is connected into a mesh-like network. So even in the extent and scenario that let's say, for example, there's a 4 operator in the cluster, one went down forever because of regulations. So you are able to actually, with a DVT network, you are able to take this operator and replace it with any other operator in the network according to your own criteria, permissionlessly. You don't have to talk to anyone, basically, all right? So key property, I kind of touched it a little already, so I'm gonna just skip this slide, but I think one of the main things that you can see here is that it's actually very, very easy to actually run a DV validators or even an operator in SSV. Like what it says over there, it's just 12 seconds. Pop, 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 there you go, it's done, okay? If you are someone who do not how to kind of like, generate a key or to keep the key safe and all this stuff, we have, which I will show you later, we have actually a very huge ecosystem that you can actually go to be whether non-custodian or LST, you can actually go through them. They will actually manage all the necessary technicality that you can handle for you. Right? So I mentioned we are on mainnet, and there's actually a mainnet incentive that we will touch on later. I will touch on later as well. So we break our mainnet into 4 different phases. So we are right now currently at launch phases together with the DAO selected launch partner who have integrated the technology or built on us. All right. So the next step, there's already a forum proposal that went up to the DAO to vote to actually permission us launch it for any validator who want to utilize DV, SSV network. All right. So stats. Yesterday we just broke through. Yesterday we just break the 1,000 mark. So we are currently on mainnet with 1,000 validator, and it's still growing. I think the last time I checked itself today in the morning is that we are right now somewhere around 1,120 validators deployed by launch partners, and we have been achieving very good statistic, I would say. Here's the performance. You guys can go and check it. It's on Beacon Chain, it's on Rated. Yeah. So I think performance do matters. So from the past 3.5 months of, mainnet, the data that we have been seeing, and I'm a little bit crazy. So I check on the performance almost every single day. It's kind of like a habit, right? So I'm happy to say that I think the attestation rate itself is always at consistently at 100%, including proposal, including sync committee, including sync committee aggregation. So we are consistently ranging around 99.5% to 100% in terms of effectiveness. Yep. So this is the ecosystem that I mentioned about. We have a very healthy ecosystem right now and a vibrant ecosystem. So we have different flavor. Depends on what you want. If you want staking pool, there you go. You want LSD, there you go. So if you want non-custodian services, you have Xhash, you have P2P, anything, any flavors and variety of staking services or applications that you are interested in, we have it already on the ecosystem. All right. So to actually encourage the adoptions of DVT or SSV network to further help to decentralize the overall health of Ethereum, especially in the Ethereum staking side of things. So the DAO actually launched a incentivized mainnet where you can get up to 50% APR boost to your existing validation rewards. All right, this is to encourage adoptions, to encourage to actually appreciate early adopters. All right. So I'm sorry to say we started 1 month ago. So if you guys want to join yourself, it's only left with 11 months. Yep. So for us, like what I mentioned, we are very focused on developers. So what we believe in terms of to have a larger impact on Ethereum is developers and developers and developers. Having a long tail of different LSD, exchange, integrating with the service, and staking service and pool, all right? So might give developers, okay? So if there's any developers right here, I'll take this chance to kind of shout out. So there we actually put together, the DAO actually put together a 3 million grant program, be it whether you are new or be it whether you are working something in stealth or be it whether you are an existing service provider. If you have a roadmap to actually integrate DVT technology, SSV, into your existing tech stack for fault tolerance and resiliency, you can come up to me, speak to me. There's a grant program for you to actually touch on, to actually get some bootstrap. And also, it's a whole full journey. So the team have actually put together a 50 million ecosystem fund as well that help you to move from stage 1 when you build, which is the to move from stage 1, which is the grant program after you build. There's an ecosystem fund itself that we have countless tier 1 VCs that actually support us together to adopt a much more DV-centric ecosystem. So if once you finish building, there's an ecosystem fund for you to kind of touch on to actually speak to the VCs that we work with to actually go into the next phase of your growth, which is, you might be scaling, you might need more fund for scaling, market penetrations. That's an ecosystem fund for you guys to work on. Yeah. All right, thank you. I don't know whether I have time to take some questions, if you guys have questions. All right. Oh, sure.
What about Restaking?
Sorry?
What about Restaking?
Okay, this is a very good question. In terms of restaking itself, right, for us, SSV implementations is very focused. We implement the DVT technology as an infrastructure. So we don't really interfere with the Ethereum layer. But what I would say is that it actually gives you an indirect relation. What do I mean by that? Is that ultimately itself, when we talk about restaking itself, is it's about the base security of Ethereum, because you are using the capital efficiency of whatever that is stake to actually run the restaking itself. So I think indirect correlation is that I actually just have a panel yesterday, which I kind of become the devil advocate, is that we need to make sure that the base layer itself of validator to have to make sure that they have the necessary fault tolerance and resiliency in order not to go offline, in order not to get slashed. So whenever you are doing additional layers of restaking on top of the application layer, it makes it much smooth and much less risky, if that answers your question, right? So if the base layer itself or the validators that you are using itself for restaking went offline or get slashed, it actually affects the whole upper layer of restaking or liquid restaking tokens. So the base layer is important. What we are working on, what we actually help in terms of restaking narrative is to make sure that the base layer that the restaking protocols is using itself is safely guarded, is always performing, and it never gets slashed. Does that answer your question? Yeah. All right, thank you.